Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, January 7th. A lot to talk about this morning. We have a potent system that will cause some accumulating snow in the I-95 corridor. I expect a general snowfall accumulation of about 1 to 3 inches from D.C. to Philadelphia, then lesser amounts up in New York City, maybe a coating to an inch or so in that region. We'll go through the details over the next several hours, but let me just kind of lay out the general idea here up front. First of all, we have low pressure right now forming over the Tennessee Valley, and it's a potent little system with good support in the upper part of the atmosphere, and we'll talk about that over the next few minutes. Precipitation, mainly in the form of snow, has already broken out across western Virginia and West Virginia, moves into the D.C. metro region probably around the midday hours, then mid to late afternoon in the Philadelphia metro region. General track of this system will be in this fashion: to a position off the New Jersey coastline by early tonight, and then from there it continues to move east to northeast. And this does a couple things. First of all, it slides to the south of the metro regions of D.C. and Philadelphia and New York City, putting us on the cold side of the system. And we'll see in a moment, there's quite a bit of cold air in the upper part of the atmosphere. And also, the fact that it does not roll up the coast from this point on, it moves east-northeast out to off the southern New England coastline, kind of spares New York City and Boston. They should get little to no snow out of this, and maybe a coating to an inch of the New York City metro region. But again, the impact will be less up to the north and east because of this, the fact that this system will not ride up along the New England coastline. Probably the prime zone for snow accumulation will be from the northern and western suburbs of D.C. all the way to the southwestern suburbs of Philadelphia. We're generally right in this region right here will be on the high end of what I'm expecting. And again, 1 to 3 inches, maybe an isolated 4-inch, especially like to the west of D.C., maybe even to the southwest of Philadelphia. But in that zone right there, from the suburbs of D.C. to the suburbs of Philadelphia, probably the prime zone for this particular system. And of course, we'll monitor all of that over the next several hours. Well, let's go through some forecast maps. We'll use the GFS model from 6Z, and we'll take a look also at some snow depth predictions by the NAM model later on in the video discussion. First of all, when I talk about a potent system, what I really mean is that there's a lot of upper air support. This is the jet streak map from the 6Z GFS model run. As of this morning, Tuesday morning, this is the way it looks, and the strongest winds in the upper part of the atmosphere, around 250 millibars, right here in the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., and that is a contributing factor to the development of this low-pressure area now over the Tennessee Valley, headed towards the coastal waters of New Jersey. We'll just go through the next few hours, and that then slides off to the east, but the damage will be done. We'll have a strong enough upward motion to form that low-pressure area that becomes, again, a pretty strong little system by the time it's off the New Jersey coastline by early tonight. I just want to move forward a little bit to show, notice this next jet streak in the flow of air in the northern stream. This is now by late tonight, and it drops down south and east across the Great Lakes and into the mid-Atlantic, the northeast on Wednesday. And I only want to point that out because I expect 40-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts on Wednesday, partly as a result of the strong winds in the upper part of the atmosphere. That's in the wake of today's storm system. Well, more on the upper level support. This is the 500 millibar forecast map from the 6Z GFS model run. It shows the vorticity fields. These are areas of spin in the upper part of the atmosphere that help to cause low pressure to form at the surface, helps to cause upward motion in the lower part of the atmosphere. And here we go. We have quite a healthy system in the upper part of the atmosphere, a lot of energy over the Tennessee Valley. Indeed, that's right where that low pressure area is forming right now. We'll just move ahead and notice it swings to the north and east, kind of takes on a little bit of a negatively tilted trough axis. And we've talked about this before, when the upper level trough axis extends from northwest to southeast. That promotes a lot of upward motion on the eastern flank here. So by this time, this is early tonight, we'll have a pretty strong low pressure area right in this region right here, just off the New Jersey coastline, probably the southern New Jersey coastline, putting D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City on the cold side of the storm system. That swings on by, and here we are now early tomorrow. And remember, we saw that upper level jet streak that will slide south and east on Wednesday. That, along with some upper level energy, will contribute to gusty winds at 40 miles per hour or so on Wednesday, and maybe some snow shower activity as well, especially in the higher elevations, upstate Pennsylvania, for example. But there could even be some snow shower activity into the I-95 corridor region in the wake of this storm system. I'm talking about Wednesday into Wednesday evening. Well, let's now take a look at the surface forecast maps from last night's 6C GFS model run. One thing I want to point out here, notice these dashed blue lines. They represent what we call thickness values in the atmosphere. And in this particular case, these dashed blue lines and dashed red lines represent thickness values in the lower half of the atmosphere, from 1,000 millibars to 500 millibars. And the bottom line here is the lower the thickness value in general, the lower the temperature. And this 540 line is kind of a magical line that meteorologists use for a rain, snow a type of line during a storm situation. So what we're seeing here is throughout this storm will be on the low side of 540 thickness value here. In other words, the upper atmosphere is quite cold, and even though surface temperatures during this event will be marginal, high temperatures well up in the 30s in many parts of the I-95 corridor region, once the precipitation begins, it should change to snow if it doesn't begin as snow, especially when it's coming down harder later on today into early tonight. It should be in the form of snow with this very cold air up in the upper part of the atmosphere. So here's the beginnings of the storm system here on Tuesday morning. Let's now move ahead. Snow again advancing towards the D.C. metro region, probably arrival time there during the midday hours. That means anywhere from 10 or 11 a.m. to 1 or 2 p.m. And again, with marginal temperatures at the surface, it certainly can be a mixture of rain and snow at times, especially at the beginning of this event. But anytime the precipitation comes down harder, it should be in the form of snow, and it should change over to snow if it does begin as a mixture with that cold air in the upper part of the atmosphere. Here we are midday, that 540 line still to the south and east of D.C. Then, by early tonight, strong little system here sitting off the South New Jersey coastline with some snow still occurring early this evening in the D.C. metro region, and it may be the heaviest period of snow in the Philly metro region from very late this afternoon into the evening hours. And notice also here in the next forecast map here by middle of the night, 1-2 a.m., that low pressure area moves again from the coastal waters of southern New Jersey east-northeast instead of riding up the seaboard, so that lessens the threat of accumulating snow in New York City and Boston. They'll get something, but not as much as D.C. and Philadelphia in this particular case. But also notice here, kind of this, what we call a conveyor belt, the wraparound precipitation on the backside of the low, and that will extend the snow places like southeastern Pennsylvania and all the way into New Jersey this evening. So the snow very well could be over with at this time by the middle part of the evening in D.C., but it will kind of hang on a little bit as that low itself intensifies off the coastline, hangs on a little bit in Philadelphia and the suburbs of Philadelphia, all the way across New Jersey, and maybe even hanging on perhaps till midnight up into New York City. And then we get into the late night hours and early tomorrow, and the winds will intensify, the pressure gradient will tighten with that strong jet streak aloft. Expect some wind gusts tomorrow at the surface all the way up to 40-45 miles per hour or so. And again, there will be snow bands extending from the Great Lakes, the eastern Great Lakes, into the Mid-Atlantic region. Some of these snow showers could make it into the I-95 corridor region. The best chance will be north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, but definitely a cold, windy day on Wednesday in the wake of this storm. with some snow shower activity to monitor, maybe even a couple of heavier snow squalls. And then that kind of tends to calm down tomorrow night going into the early morning hours of Thursday. By Thursday, high pressure in control. Still a cold day, but certainly much less harsh because of a drop in winds to very little, if anything, during the day on Thursday. Let's wrap up again with, in terms of snowfall accumulation. In general, I'm expecting a 1 to 3 inch snowfall from the D.C. area all the way to the Philadelphia metro region, maybe a coating to an inch in New York City. I think the NAM model has had a pretty good handle on this situation. What we're looking at here is the accumulated snow depth change here for this event, and I think it's a pretty good forecast map from last night's 6Z NAM model run. Generally, a little bit more snow when you're on the western side of the metro regions of D.C. and Philadelphia. Again, the heaviest area in this immediate I-95 corridor region, probably right in this region right here, from the northern and western suburbs of D.C. to the western suburbs of Philadelphia. 1 to 3 inches, maybe an isolated 4-inch amount in some spots, especially to the west of D.C. and maybe to the southwest of Philadelphia. New York City, anywhere from a coating to an inch or so. Lesser amounts, and that's again because the storm moves to the coastal waters of New Jersey, and instead of riding up the coastline at that time, it moves more or less east-northeast, and that lessens the impact in Boston and New York City. But again, a decent snowfall for D.C. and Philadelphia, starting in D.C. around the midday hours, mid to late afternoon in southeastern Pennsylvania. That's it for now. For PerspectaWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.